Hi everyone! Welcome back to another episode of Crafting Kindness, and welcome for the first time for those of you joining us for the first time. Today I'm going to be doing some what I call winter blooms. Neither one of them are a specific technique per se, but the first one I'm going to do is kind of a variation on the Majesty. And I'm doing something a little bit different with my white, circling it in the middle, like I do with my Mica in the Majesty, and then I don't have a white pattern. So kind of a variation on the Majesty, and then the second one, I'm going to do a variation on my Web Effect Mica tray, my Geode rectangular tray. So this first one, I'm going to be using ArtPro Resin and Octopus Resin Inks. And to make it more wintry with my theme, I'm using blues and whites. And I put a drop of the Night Blue Octopus Resin Ink in here first. I really like the depth of it, but also the hue of the blue that it creates. And then I'm going to be using a couple of drops of the Octopus Resin Inks Jeans, which is more of a true denim blue, hence the name jeans. So I just mix that kind of to my liking here, and I don't want it super dark, but it's a good medium. It's a good medium blue with a depth with that night blue drop in it. And then my lighter blue, I'm going to be using this Smurf resin ink, and this will be my lighter blue. I'm going to put a couple of drops in there first, and then I realized that that's really way too late for what I wanted. You'll see when I pull my stick up here that really that's just tinted. It's not really all that colored per se. And so I added 3 more drops. So there's a total of 5 drops in here for the Smurf. And again, that's just my, lighter colored blue color. And as you can see, it has a bit of a teal tint to it, aqua. So I just looking at the 2 colors together to see what they look like, make sure that's what I want, and that looks good. So I'm using the EyeCandy Mica for my Mica color here, and this is a beautiful light blue Mica called Iceburg Blue. And I will link this down in the description. And don't forget that I've got a coupon code, Crafting Kindness, to get you 10% off any purchase at the EyeCandy store. So you can take a peek at there. So I'm going to mix this up, and I don't want this mica to be overpowering per se, so it's still really pretty translucent there. And then for my clear push, I decided that I wanted a little bit extra sparkle across the whole piece. So I'm using a little bit of that EyeCandy Mica Ghost Blue, the blue interference. And I just put a little bit in there again. I just want a bit of a shimmer. I don't want it to weigh down and actually like make a pattern in striations, which happens when there's heavy mica. So you can see there, it's just a little bit of a glimmer that's in there, an iridescent hue to it. So I'm going to start here by pouring a clear ring. And then I'm going to take my dark blue and put that over that little clear ring. And then before that closes, I'm going to dump in my lighter blue color. Now you'll see here that I started on that outside edge where it meets the dark blue. And that's simply because I didn't want the dark blue to travel in a little bit more. So I started on that middle ring per se, and then circled the rest of that in the middle. And then I took the rest of my dark and circled it on the outside edges. And then this white, which I'm not sure why I didn't get on the video, but it is Castin Craft. And I am going to just circle it in the middle there, kind of in between the dark blue and the light blue, like I typically would for the Majesty. And then I'm going to circle my mica color on the outside edge here. And then I'm going to take my clear tinted with that ghost blue and just give it a push in the middle. Now I will say, since this is not really a recipe that's been tried and true. The white, I was thinking that as I was pouring it, that it looked like it was way too much white. So I was kind of nervous about the outcome of that. So we'll take a peek at that when it comes out. Again, as I normally do with my Majesty, and circle, the mica around that center ring in between the two colors. I usually don't have quite as much coverage as I did this time around with the white, using that kind of same technique of circling in between the two colors with the white. So I was kind of nervous about it. And we'll take a peek at what the end result was, and we'll kind of talk about it then. So we are going to move on to the second winter bloom. Again, I'm going to try to do a similar kind of web effect in a smaller version. And I apologize that this part of the video does go in and out of focus sometimes when my hands are removed. So I apologize for that. So going back to this web effect, if you remember from that video, if you watched it, I make my mica a little bit heavier because I want it to sink and make the web effect. And then I make my white a little bit lighter, not so heavy, because I want to see more of the variation of the mica and the striations from that. So I make my mica heavier, and then I make my white a little bit lighter. And we'll probably notice the variation in how this mica turns out with it being much heavier than our first winter bloom on the left there, which was much lighter. So you can see I even wanted to add a little bit more mica in here. So even though I made, that first scoop a bit bigger than my winter bloom number 1, I wanted to make it even more opaque with the mica. And so I'll show you here in just a minute what that looks like at the end, because I think that I stop after adding that little bit. So, all right, so now I'm going to do my white mica, which is that key white. And this is just a really simple, pretty white. And I'm going to add 2 scoops here. Again, my guess is that that's probably about an 1/8 or a little less of a teaspoon. It's at the end of the popsicle stick, and I don't have them marked. I made these before I was really using a graduated measuring spoon for measuring mica. So, but now using the measuring spoons, I'm guessing that that's probably about an 1/8 or a little bit less of a teaspoon of mica. So again, this is the Icky White EyeCandy mica pigment. It's a really pretty neutral white. It's not super warm. It's not super bright and white. It's just a really pretty shimmery white. I really enjoy it. And next up, I'm going to be mixing my white, which we see here, Castin Craft. This white is actually, I looked back at my recipe, is actually the same white opaqueness, or really translucency, because it is much more translucent than opaque. It's the same amount that I used for winter bloom number 1. So we'll want to keep that in mind when we see the end results, and I'll revisit this conversation when we look at the results here. But the white is exactly the same. It's the same number of grams of resin. I believe it's 25 grams of resin and 10 drops of Castin Craft. So the same white was used. And then again, like I did for winter bloom number 1, I'm going to be putting some of that interference ghost blue mica powder into my clear push. You probably saw that I put a little bit more in than last time, and that's simply because this technique that I'm doing has more clear push. So it's really about the same level of iridescence that ghost blue gives than the last winter bloom 1. So for this pour, I'm again going for the same effect as my rectangular Geode tray. And so what I'll end up doing here is pouring a clear ring And then I'll be taking my blue mica and pouring that all in over the clear. And then you'll notice that the blue actually closed up a bit quicker than what I was thinking. And so I had to kind of rush to get my white mica dumped there in the center before it totally closed. So I got that done pretty quick and just decided, well, I'll circle a few thin lines of white mica over the blue too. And then I did a little clear push for that white mica so it had a little bit room to move inwards, because again, that web effect really needs it to move inwards. So I wanted to have that white push out a little bit, the white mica push out a little bit. And then I got my Castin Craft white and circled it around the outside edges. And then I used the rest of my ghost blue clear and gave that a good push in the middle. However, it ended up being too much last clear push, and so you see me here sectioning out some of that ghost blue clear. And I should have been paying better attention when I was pouring that last final push, so this wouldn't have happened. I don't think it's really going to impact my design that much, simply because there is such a large section of clear there in the center. It wasn't, there was no pattern on the bottom there that was moving. So as we watch the resin work, you'll see that I'm going to drop my center in, which was some new glitter I got from Laura's Art Corner that I'll link down below. Then I gave it a little swirl. So I'm really excited to demold this because there's two very different patterns going on. We've got the bigger cells on the left, and then we got the striations on the right. So I'm really excited to see how these winter blooms turned out. The blues are really pretty. It's perfect, just what I wanted for winter themed pour. And the petals on this left one are really soft. I love that. On the back side, and on the right, I'm imagining some more striations coming through because of the mica and because of the back pattern. So let's take a look at this first one. Again, I love that softness on that back side. So hopefully it looks kind of similar on the front. Oh, okay. Well, the petals are definitely softer. They're very white. And, I was afraid of that I had too much white that I was using. Not necessarily too heavy of a white, but just too much white. But very cool effect in the center with that blue smurf that you can see through. And you can actually see a little bit of webbing underneath that smurf. So, and some of that color did bleed through that white from the edges, from the dark edges, which makes a cool ombre effect there. That's pretty cool. All right, we'll take a closer look at it again in a minute. Let's take a look at the one on the right with the mica. Oh, wow. Oh, this is a perfect winter themed pour. I love this. It's so sparkly, and the softness of that iceberg blue mica is just phenomenal. This is amazing. I love this so much. This may be one of my new favorite pieces. Wow. I love the striations. I didn't really get that web effect that I thought I would, but I think it's just because it's a smaller mold. And I probably had too much mica in there as far as the quantity, not the mass. But interesting, remember, I used the same white for each bloom. I used that 25 grams of resin to 10 drops of Castin Craft. And do you see how on the right, my mica was so much heavier that it really prevented that white from dropping down like it did on the left. So two very different effects. And again, I love kind of like seeing through that left bloom and seeing the Castin Craft work back behind that glitter. That is very cool. And this one I'm just in love with. I love that mica color, and with the white center. And then, oh wow, it's just so pretty. That gold center too with my new crushed glass from Laura's Art Corner is beautiful. But my goodness, the variations on that mica, the iceberg blue, is just beautiful. So thanks for joining me today. Lots of different things kind of going on in this experiments with my new winter blooms. Drop me some comments and feedbacks down below. And in the meantime, I hope you all are having a wonderful holiday season, staying healthy, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Take care.